Hello everyone, and welcome to another tutorial, another approach tutorial. Now today we're back on the Zibo 737, and we'll be doing another approach that I've done a few weeks ago in the Tolis. I'll try maybe uncover them all since I have all the material already done, let's say. Now let's have a look at where we're going in case you haven't watched the Tolis approach and it's the first time. So this is an approach into LIRA, which is Rome Ciampino, so a secondary airport in Rome. The main one is Fiumicino, and this one is a smaller airport. A few budget airlines fly there, like Ryanair and Wizz Air and so forth. Now it's very particular because of the terrain around the airport, so it does make for a very interesting approach, this circle to land. Now traditionally you would prefer the approach into runway 15 coming from the northwest, and for a number of reasons. There is terrain over here, so this is quite high terrain, and also the runway is downsloping quite a lot coming from the south. So up to a few knots of tailwind, you still prefer ILS 15. Otherwise, you'll do the circle to land on the 33, which is a procedure I really like. Now, the procedure can be done in two different ways. It can be done, start the descent in the meantime. It can be done either with a VOR approach or with an RNAV approach. So you can see here approach, we have either an RMP circling or a VOR circling. Now the VOR is a little bit more precise than the RMP, so the minima is slightly lower. So the VOR approach we have 1350, on the RMP we have 1470. It's actually 120 feet higher. It doesn't really matter if you have full visibility, but I prefer the old-fashioned VOR. Now the way the procedure works is you overfly the VOR Rome just on top of the airport, and then you go out from the VOR on a radial, classic teardrop procedure, come back on another radial, but that doesn't take you down precisely to the runway. It's actually offset 15 degrees because of this terrain over here. So after this procedure, there's another procedure that then takes you on to the final turn. So sort of a traditional visual prescribed tracks. So you have to break off and then align yourself with the runway. But we'll have a look at the briefing now in the plane. The flight I did is an actual Ryanair flight from Cagliari to Rome, and I'll show you the plan. I'll show you the plan in the sim. Let's go back into the Zibo. There we are. We just left top of descent. We're now descending down. We started our descent on setting 6,000 feet as is initial descent. That will be the VOR. Now let's have a look at the briefing here, the operational flight plan. So you can have a look here if you want to do the same flight. This is the routing I used today. What we've entered into the box for this flight in terms of arrival is, I'll do it again so you can see exactly how to program it. It's going to be in the box of the Zibo here in the FMS. You're going to find it called VOR-A over here without indication of the runway. It's just called VOR-A, so you select that. In terms of stars, we use today the Falma 4 Foxtrot, and then here we've entered Rome 1. And that is in terms of your transition. And there we go. And then execute. So we just check it here on the plan mode. So we are in Valma. Then the next point, Lunac, OST. Then here we start the procedure. So on top of the VOR, we're going to be at 6,000 there. Then we're going to go outbound turn it bound again, and that's it. And then the procedure finishes here, and the last part is manual. Now that is all in. Let's have a look at the charts and start briefing it. There we go. Lima, India, Romeo, Alpha, Rome Ciampino. So the arrival, we said, is a Valm for Foxtrot. And where are we? We are now passing Valm, maximum 270 knots. That is good. It's already entered there. And that's perfect. Then the procedure, we're going to be on the approach, circling VOR A, runway 33. So that's chart 23-3 of the Jeppesen chart. And then we need the final procedure, which is the final here, circling RMP or VOR. That final turn is the same either for the RMP or the VOR. So we're going to need 23-3 alpha. Then we get the airport chart. And we can have a look at the briefing. Now, we're coming down this arrival, just checking the box that everything is coded correctly. We have Lunac, Ostia below 230 knots, that's correct. Romeo Alpha 409 below 210. Below 210, the next one. Then a Lockery, maximum 210, and that's correct. And then we go on to the actual approach. So on Rome, on top of the VOR, we're going to be at below 180. So we're going to have to be already, well, I would say around flaps, well, definitely flaps 1, if not flaps 5. So we're going to have to start deploying flaps before the VOR. Then we'll go outbound to this one. So Delta 178. So on the radial 178, Juliet is the 10th letter, so that means from the VOR radial 178 at 10 miles, and that is this point over here. Then we'll turn on the radial 164, still at 10 miles, which is this point over here, and then we'll be at 180 above 3000. Now, one thing, technically this thing is coded in the FMS. So from this point, which is the final fix, since this is coded, the plane should automatically start going down. Now what happens, as I've tried this morning, it does go down only up to this point, but then it levels off. Even though it's programmed the glide path, after that point it levels off. I might have done something wrong, but it seemed pretty straightforward. So what we're going to do, we're going to do the descent manually. So in order to do the descent manually, we need to make sure we are at 3000 feet at the point before the final fix, so at the center fix over here. At this point we need to be at 3000. But the FMS will probably program a continuous descent. So that means that it might hit 3000, but just there. We don't want to do that if we want to do a manual descent. We want to be leveled off at least a couple of miles before this point, because we want the plane to go into alt hold, be stable, and have the time to set up the vertical speed before we do the procedure. So let's see, if we delete this constraint, first of all it's going to tell us, yeah, 2.8, that's okay. We erase this one. What we want to be, I would say there's 2.3 miles here. We're just going to change at this point, which is here, we want to be leveled off at 3000. So we change, instead of 3000 above, we'll put 3000. So we have forward slash 3000, we put it there, and at this point we'll be leveled off at 3000 there. Put it in the next waypoint as well, and that's it. Perfect. So as you can see at this point, it tells us that we're high on profile, because of course we made the profile steeper all of a sudden. So I'm just gonna put some speed brakes to start decelerating and recapturing the profile. Very important that you level off at the very least a couple of miles before this point, otherwise you will not have time. The plane will not go into alt hold, and if you manipulate the vertical speed, then it's all going to be very confusing, and it needs to be a very precise maneuver, because as you start descending down, you need to respect all these altitude and make sure that you're on a 3.5 and minus 3.5 degrees descent. So what we're going to do is we're going to put flaps 1 to 5. We'll see how it is over here, and then once again we want to be early in terms of configuration, because we want to be, well, in terms of workload and the way the airplane flies, we want to be fully configured here, because as you're going down in vertical speed, if you start putting out flaps, of course you're not gonna have a very precise descent. So what we want to do, we want to be flaps 15. I would say flaps 15 and gear down in the turn, and then we'll put flaps full, so the flaps landing, just before we start going down. We're gonna have to start the descent at 7.7 DME. Let's make sure that Rome is tuned. We have it here, but we'll hard tune it. The VOR is 110.8. We have it here, 110.8, and we have it here, 110.8. So that's all programmed. We put as well the two courses, so 178 outbound, and then inbound is going to be 344. We put 344 there, so we have the two radials. So flaps 15 and gear down in the turn, flaps full before the descent, and then what we're going to do, we're going to then activate vertical speed descent at minus 3.5 degrees, and we want to start it a little bit earlier at this point, normally 0.3 miles before, so we give the time to the plane to decelerate and start descending and settle on a nice descent. Now how to calculate a minus 3.5? Well, there are different ways, but for me the simplest way is, let's see, the descent, the speed that we're gonna be is gonna be 140 knots. So let's say 145 knots ground speed. Multiply 145 times 5.3. Normally the rule is 5, and if we want to be more accurate, it's 5.3. So by 5.3, and it gives us 768, and that's for a 3 degrees. We divide that by 3 and multiply times 3.5, and we have 900 feet per minute. So we're gonna need a descent at 900 feet per minute. Really nice scenery here. This is just self-made orthos. So here we start the descent at 900 feet per minute. We're gonna go down and wait until 4 DME, and at 4 DME we're going to do a manual turn. So we disconnect the autopilot while going down before approaching the 4 DME, and then we'll manually turn heading 008, and then still monitoring the VOR distance, which is here at the bottom of the ND. At 2.5 we'll turn on final. From here all the way to the runway we should be able to maintain that minus 3.5 degrees, so that 900 feet per minute down. And then we'll land on the runway. As we said, quite a lot of downslope. You see the elevation here is 426 and it's 341, so that's 80 feet of difference between one side of the runway and the other one, so we need to be careful with that. The runway is only 2,200 meter. Let's put auto brake 2 should be enough for 2,200 meters. There we go. We now descend below 10,000 feet, so let's put the seat belts back on, our landing lights and turn off. Let's check a QNH on arrival. QNH in Ciampino's 1016, so we can preset that. We have already been cleared below transition level, so let's put the QNH. And we are ready. Keep the speed in check. We still have that constraint below 210. It's 15 miles to the VOR. And we need to lose only 1,500. We will level off a little bit here. So there's no need to put flaps out. It's too little to lose in a very long distance. We can see the airport there. And this is Rome. So you can see why that procedure. You can see all this very high terrain over here. So you wouldn't be able to come straight down. So we're basically going to go practically this way and then turn final. So the constraint at Rome is below 180. So let's keep the descent page open. So the next constraint are going to be 180 and flight level 60. And that's the Colosseum. So let's clear ourselves. Well, 6,000 at the VOR is the next. Yeah, 6,000 at least, and then we'll need to clear ourselves to 3,000. Speed at the VOR will need to be 180, so we'll wait a little bit longer and then we'll put flaps 5 and decelerate. So let's put +5 now. And clear ourselves to 3000. Open the speed window, set 180. There's no need to be any slower than that. And here again we could be tracking the VOR manually with VOR lock, as we have the nav aids tune and the course tune, but we'll leave it in LNav. It's going to do that automatically. So if we let it to its own device, as we said, it's going to level off too late. So we don't want to keep going on VNav now. We just want to use vertical speed. And then we can adjust vertical speed until we see the green banana where we want it. "900 feet. Okay, there we have the green banana. And that's what, yeah, that's 1100. Even 1000 should do. There we go, perfect. Just before the turn. Then in the turn we put down gear and a flat 15. We are below MSA now. MSA in this sector after the VOR is 7,100, mostly because of the high terrain over there. But of course, we would check that we're happy to be below MSA. In this case, we're visual, so there's no problem. And we are on a charter procedure as well. QNH, we triple check it. And it hasn't changed this. Yeah, 1016, 1016. So we're good. Now that you have the option with the Zibo saving flight, it's always a good idea to save it every now and then, especially on these difficult approaches.
To go.
So we said we're going to put gear down and flash 15, then we'll level off at 3000. And then we're going to want to start, as we said, this descent at 8 DME instead of 7.7. 8 DME will start down at 900. And we'll see what the ground speed is. 900, 950. We calculated on a ground speed of 145. So we can adjust that. But remember to activate the vertical speed descent. You cannot be at the same altitude, otherwise it doesn't activate. So we need to move it up. If we moved it down there, we could level off. We'll just move it up to activate vertical speed. If we press vertical speed now, that we're at the same altitude as the MCP, is not going to do anything. So let's put gear down, flash 15, and match the speed. Well, let's set now 3,500, so then we're free to start the vertical speed descent. And let's go flaps full now, so we can decelerate on time. What's the speed? 144 is our VOR. We can set the heading of 008, which is going to be our final turn already. Well, second to final turn. Vertical speed window is open. Gear down is down. Let's do the final action here. There we are, nearly 8 miles. 8 miles, let's start going down. Let's do, we're at 160 ground speed, so 950 should do. So 160 times 5.3 divided 3 times 3.5, that's 989 actually. So let's go down at 1000. We can double check the progress. 7 DME, we are at 27 and we should have been 2720, so that's good. Now let's finish the actions. Let's arm the speed brake. Recheck is good, so let's do the start switch is continuous, recall checked, speed brake armed, green light, landing gear down, 3 green, auto brake set on 2, flaps 40 set, green light and landing lights are on. Then F6 DME. Now check F on 950, so F5 DME we should be 1975. Just a tad low. Let's do 900 at this point. Let's go manual throttle. Prepare to disconnect. F4 DME, we need to start turning right for 008. We're at 4.5 DME now. We can disconnect the autopilot. Keep going down at 900 feet per minute. Keep the speed in check. The vertical speed we increased a little bit. 4 DME, let's turn 8 degrees. We're at minimums, but we're visual, so we're good.
Minimums.
And at 2.5 DME, we turn on final, maybe a little bit early. Descent 750, so let's increase a little bit the descent. We need to be quite low here.
$500.
2.7, we can start gently turning so we can see the puppies. Yeah, 2 white, 2 red, we're good on the puppies. Keep it going down. Speed a bit low.
400.
Approaching 3.
300.
Bit high.
200. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10.
1,000.
There we go.
500 meters remaining.
Reverse the green. Big manual
80
braking.
knots.
80 knots. Let's do the reverser. Let's try and make it here. There we go. Welcome to Ciampino. Stop the reverser and vacate. We were a little bit high on threshold. What does it say here? Threshold 50. No, well, on paper it's perfect. But yeah, we could have been a little bit lower there, but wasn't too bad. So disarm the auto brake. Can turn the landing lights off, the strobe off. Start the APU. It's a fairly short taxi. As you can see, loads of Ryanairs here. There we go, spoilers retracted. Let's retract the flaps. Reset the stabilizer. We flew the last bit manually, so we should have disconnected the flight directors in an ideal world, but as we don't have an FO, one pilot environment, I'd rather fly correctly sometimes rather than start looking around the cockpit and crash into a mountain. And we come and park here. Lights off. GPU bus. There we go, we're on GPU, so we can turn the engines off. Seatbelts off. And anti-collision off. There we are. So once again, welcome to Rome Ciampino. And I hope you've enjoyed the flight. Oh, look at that, as we were saying, Ryanair and Wizz Air. There's a Wizz Air who just arrived from runway 15, of course. As we said, 33 is quite rare, but it's absolutely worth it. It's loads of fun. But once again, thank you very much for watching. If you have any suggestions or any specific approaches that you would like to see a video on, please do let me know in the comments. If you liked, please give it a like. Subscribe if you want to see any more content. And but for now, we're going to go and have a look at their replay, and I'll say bye, and I'll see you next time. Thank you very much again. Bye now.